Today's guest is Polly Angel, and Polly Angel is an expert in something that I've not talked about on my podcast before. And so I'm very excited to introduce her to you and to have a discussion with her about this special kind of therapy. It's called Rapid Transformational Therapy, RTT, and it is known to really get at the root of subconscious beliefs because it's very important we find these, and they're very hard to find because they don't come up in our conscious mind. And we talk about that and we talk about why, but it happens to every single human. So even if you think you've got it all together and you have no problems, I guarantee there is something that's holding you back in some way, shape, or form. And there is a belief that is behind that and that is invisible to you. And we had a great conversation. I just met Polly. She is from the UK. Delightful. We had an excellent conversation. We think a lot alike. And I am actually going to have her back because we're going to talk about more. We just didn't have enough time to get through some of the things that she knows a lot about, and that I think her perspective and her experience could really open uh, just some ideas in your head, really shed some light on what could be going on. Maybe there's something that is holding you back. If you know something's holding you back, that's why it would be beneficial for you to learn about RTT and maybe try it. But she has a backstory, as most of my guests do, and we talk about that. And it's funny how she had these little whispers early in life, and it took her many, many, many years to finally become really knowledgeable in this subject and get certified in the subject. But it was meant to be because of her early encounter, I would say, with the model. But her website is Rapid Shift Therapy, and you can learn more about her there. But without further ado, let's get to the interview because it was excellent. Welcome to another episode of Living Your Sparked Second Half. And today I have Polly Angel. Hi, Polly.
Hi.
And she comes from the UK with a wonderful accent. I always love talking to people from across the sea. Yes, I have a question right off out of the gate. Is Polly Angel the name you were born and given?
No, that's my married name.
That's so cool that
Yeah,
you
beautiful
became
name.
an
Very
angel when you got married.
lucky. Yeah.
I say I lost my joy when I got married because Joy was my middle name, and so we replaced that. All
Oh,
right, seriousness. So explain what you do, and of course we'll talk about how you got into it. But one of the reasons I wanted to have Polly on is because she is certified in rapid transformational therapy, and I've heard about this, but I have never had anybody on an episode to talk about it. And so I am going to be learning along with you who is listening. So I'm very excited to get into this and how, Polly, you came into wanting to be certified. Usually we have a backstory, and that's always the juicy part. So can you share a little bit about yourself?
yeah. So I have been through many ups and downs in my life, like we all have. And throughout, so I dabbled in elite sport as a young person. And so I was really quite on the stage with in my teenage years. I was under 21. I represented the country in equestrian sport. And in those vulnerable years, felt, I was on a stage as well. And it's a very the dress and everything for the competition gear, and I just felt very much like I would compare myself to my peers, like we all do in our teenage years. And
Yeah,
so
it's
I did.
interesting. I saw that I didn't know why there was that horse. I saw a horse and a rider on your website. So that makes
Yes.
total sense now. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my career, my early years career, and I struggled with my weight. I struggled with body image, and in trying to find a way to cope with that, I actually sought out help or guidance from the books of Marissa Peer. Now, she is the lady who created Rapid Transformational Therapy. And although her therapy wasn't accessible to me in those days, her books were. So I read her books, I was fascinated by the mind, and the audios that came with the book are something that really helped me to think a little bit more positively through those challenging times.
How
So,
did you, I mean, I think about myself when I was a teenager. The last thing I would think about is searching for a book. You tend to cope just by doing things that aren't healthy, starving
oh yeah.
yourself or what,
Mhm.
I know drugs, people turn to drugs and just unhealthy things. So why do you think you thought of this?
Well,
And probably, when I was younger, there wasn't access to the internet. I think now you can see things online and now it listens to you. So if you talk about something, then you get an ad for it. So, but yeah, I imagine you didn't find it on the internet.
no, I actually found it through a friend of my mum's actually, who had been to see Marissa in person for therapy, and she was talking about it. So that's how I learned about her. But I did all those things that you have just said. I did all the diets, every diet under the sun. I got myself in a real state in my mind about, every single meal. What shall I eat? What shouldn't I eat? Once you go down that path, I think it's a bit of a minefield, still is in some ways, to what direction is the right direction to go. So I did everything.
Yeah, you become, I
And
think, obsessed about it. My mom
oh,
had anorexia, so and I was overweight at like 13, 14, and I lost 30 pounds. And I had a horse, by the way. And starting to ride, I think really helped me because I started doing activity every day instead of coming home and sitting on the couch. So, I was very similar, but I think you just get caught up in this and it becomes the lifestyle that you live.
I think for me, the internal turmoil that my brain was in every single day, constantly beating myself up. I needed to be fitter, I needed to be slimmer, I needed to be taller, which wasn't possible. But I, was trying to fit this mold of all my peers, and I didn't fit it. And I really fell down the rabbit hole of trying to be something I wasn't. And I think
Yes.
I think that's the scary part once you start down that road.
Yeah, I saw in your application that or the questionnaire that you want to talk about authenticity. And as you're describing that, to me it's so sad because you're trying to live what other people or you think what other people want you to be, and you've lost yourself. And I think a lot of people that happens to people, a lot of the people that I work with and that follow me because I'm a grandmother. When our kids leave, our identity is so much caught up with our kids. And I think we're authentic as moms. I think we are, but I think we lose ourselves in our kids. And that role of mom, when it goes away, it's like, what am I? What am I? And you're so much more than being a mom. And I think people invest so much in that they don't dabble in other things. And so when the kids leave, it's like such a identity crisis of sorts. But it
Absolutely.
sounds like
I
you
totally
you you were doing that as a teenager. I mean, I think a lot of teenagers are trying to find themselves. So that's so interesting that you're so in tune with that and sought something out.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I think we invest so much in our children and that role of being a mother that when we devote everything to them and they go, what's left of us? Or, what's left of our identity anymore? Which is why I think it's really important for people, especially in their midlife, where they're potentially about to go through that empty nest syndrome to find themselves before that so they don't have to go through that. Find what makes them tick, what lights them up for
Mm.
them, not just for their
Yeah.
need to be of value to somebody else. I think a lot of women live their lives trying to be valuable to somebody, and that's not valuable to themselves.
Yes. Yes. Seeking.
Validation in something
Yeah.
outside of them.
Yes. Yes. We
Yeah.
we agree on that. So you couldn't afford the therapy on your own. So you did the books. I'm assuming they helped in some way.
They absolutely did. I don't, I mean, you can't compare the books to the one-to-one therapy at all. It's very different, but it's an insight into what the therapy is about and also about the mindset and I'm fascinated with the power that we hold that so many of us are not aware of.
Supercomputer.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
And
a
we
lot of stored in memory, isn't there?
Yes, but we're using such a small amount of it. But also the fact that we're not aware what is going on in the background. I think that's the key to talking about this therapy, because I think a lot of people aren't aware that they have the ability to be very, very different to what they see today.
Yeah. And it's so interesting too, because I love to find stories, and you're an example where there were little seeds planted early in life that led us to where we land later. And a lot of
Yeah.
times life gets in the way. So we have to take a job for some reason. But that thing that had percolated, might stop percolating a little bit, but it's still there, and then it starts percolating again later when things unfold in a certain way. So tell me what you did, because now you're helping people with this therapy. What did you do between the time that you sought this out and it helped you, and you went full bore into learning about it and getting certified?
Well, as was sharing with you before, so Marissa Peer didn't share her training with anybody till only a few years ago. So she wanted to keep this wonderful therapy that she'd created, which I totally understand. She wanted to keep it to herself and not share it with the world. But it did mean that she couldn't help as many people as she could if she decided to share it. And thankfully, she did. And she's now training other people in her therapy. And the wonderful thing about her therapy is it's fast. She said, people haven't got time to be in therapy for years. This type of therapy, you can deal with any situation within 1 to 3 sessions. So it's not like, oh, we start this therapy and that's it for the next 2 years. We're doing a session every week. We can do 3 sessions and any problem resolved. So it's phenomenal for that because
It's
it
kind of
fits
like
the today.
speed dating. It's like
It's
speed
like
therapy.
yes, speed therapy, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. So did you work in a career?
So I did my international riding career and then I became a mother. So devoted most of my years to being a mum and very much like the person I was describing before, invested everything in that. And as they're starting to grow older, I've always been aware that I don't want to be one of those empty nesters that doesn't have any direction, and it's almost a burden on the children because they feel this
Yes.
ability to being there for their mum because I think there's a bit of a pressure there sometimes.
Well, you're
So
one of the smart ones, I say. Like, because you're anticipating it and you're knowing, and you need to be filled in other ways. And I love
yeah,
that. And you're
and
teaching them how to do it, because
I
you
also
don't want them to be unfulfilled. Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to inspire them because, you're never too late to learn something new and to turn your life around if it's not going in the direction you want it to. And that's what I wanted to also inspire them with. You're never too late to learn something. So,
So,
yes.
well, if I can interrupt you for a second, because there might be some horse people listening. So what kind of did you do dressage? Did you do jumping? What did you do? So I never did that. That is so cool to watch. Are you watching the Olympics?
Oh yes, my coach is in the Olympic team, so I still watch.
That's amazing. So cool. I love the Olympics. All right, so let's get into it. What do you do? How is it different than regular therapy? Obviously faster, but why does it work?
Well, it works in that you're communicating with the subconscious mind. So a lot of us aren't aware that our subconscious mind is like a CCTV camera on all the time. And this camera is taking in and listening and hearing and noticing behaviors, all these things, and we're not consciously aware of it. I think a lot of people think they are, but really there's a lot more going on than we give it credit for.
Yeah, they're
Um,
conscious of what their filter is telling them,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
And the thing to think about really is that we create most of our beliefs between the ages of 0 and 8 years old. Now, we then run our lives according to these beliefs. When you believe something, you look for reasons to make it real. So if you believe you are never going to be successful, you will look for reasons every day. Oh, yes, yeah, because I'm never going to be successful as that, or never going to be as successful as that person. And you look for confirmation of that. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
The one thing that I think that a lot of people don't understand is that our thoughts are also sending that energetic vibration. And so
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of manifesting that lack of success, but the universe is
Yeah.
hearing that, and the universe always has our back. And so it thinks we want that because it
Yeah.
doesn't know positive or negative. So I wanted to add that too, because I think that's a real thing.
It is. And if you imagine you are running these patterns from 8 years old, let's say, throughout your life, you're now in your 50s and you've always run these patterns and attracted the same result. That's hard to undo on your own. That's hard to rewrite those patterns and do something differently because they're so wired in, you know? So the wonderful thing about this therapy is we go in right back to the ages between 0 and 8, and we find what belief was created, why it was created, because the mind of an 8-year-old is very different to the mind of a 40, 50-year-old. And we decide, okay, this obviously means I don't deserve success. And that's it then. I'm going to practice this pattern for this many years, and then it's going to be hard to break. So the wonderful thing about the therapy is we go back and we recognize when it started, what behavior, what incident happened that made us go, I don't deserve this. And then the understanding is really mind-blowing because being able to see it through the eyes of that young person, it makes so much more sense. And then you understand, you rewire your brain with a better belief, a more positive belief, what you want now. And we go through a series of exercises within the therapy that heals that past and it gives you the ability to move forwards.
Yeah, that's so interesting. How do you do that? Do you use hypnosis? How do you, because people a lot of times will say, I don't know. You'll ask them, well, what do you remember? And,
Mm.
what was your childhood like? Oh, it was fine. It was perfect. And so it's hard to get to that trigger. So
Hmm.
there must be a special way to do that.
Yeah. So this whole therapy is based on neurolinguistic programmings, cognitive behavioral therapy, and hypnosis combined, and that's what makes it so brilliant. So the hypnosis part enables me to speak directly to the client's subconscious mind. We almost put the conscious mind to sleep so that we can just dialogue with the subconscious. Then there's no ego in the way. There's none of the stuff that tends to get in your way in life. That's all gone to sleep, and then we just focus on the subconscious so we can get straight into the root cause of the issue that we're working on.
I love that. I heard about this from somebody I follow on social media, and she found in doing this with someone that there was a paper she turned in. It had to do with some grade that she got on a paper, or that the teacher, you know, told her it was a ridiculous story and that she was so proud of this story. And so it was some way in which her paper that she had like no idea that this was something that was holding her back in many ways. It can be as crazy as that you don't even remember.
It, exactly. I think some people think that there must have been a very horrible event that happened in your past, and it's not necessarily something horrible. It's something horrible to a small child. And what upsets a small child can be just that, somebody not approving of their work. So yes, some people do have traumas that they have dealt with that is the cause of these things, but quite often they are very simple things like feeling a need to protect somebody, or that they let somebody down, or small things like that. So it's not always, doesn't always have to be scary, but it just goes to show you that the small things that happen in a small person's life really impact them.
Yeah, I would think too that hearing this, it makes me think, oh, I'd like to do it just because I want to see what if there's anything there. Because I feel
Yeah.
fine, right? But don't a lot of people think they're fine and they're really not because their life is
It
just not working out right? I mean,
is.
it may be something that they really want is just they're not achieving for some reason. And they think, oh, it's just not going to happen for me. But it's like, it's actually you that is the problem. And they have no idea.
This is why I do say on my website that this therapy is for everybody, because everybody could be not necessarily better, but could have burdens that they don't need to carry. I think this is the thing I wanted to touch on as well, that sometimes, quite often, people don't remember the event that they go back to. They know it happened because actually once they go back to the event and they see it and they say, oh, I knew that happened, but I hadn't remembered it for the last 20 years. It hadn't crossed my mind for all this time. So that's quite fascinating. So I agree with you. You very much want to just sort of see what might be in there that I've forgotten about that clearly bothered me, but I don't think it bothers me anymore.
Do you think that's a protection mechanism that like we're
Absolutely.
wired that way? So it's like protecting us in a way.
I felt very much the same. I know I had very loving parents and I had a great upbringing, but I didn't have many memories of my youth. And I was always confused by, why don't I remember? Because I know I had a nice, I got the impression that we often choose to forget. And what am I trying to forget? And I realized that I, being quite an emotional person, think I just struggled to cope with the vast emotions that I was having in my small person body, that I think a lot of it I shut out just because it was just overwhelming for me. And I think I shut down my ability to remember just because, oh, it was all just a bit too much, in those years. And not too much for any reason other than just experiencing life and reacting to things and having my big emotions. So, I think quite often they say that sensitive children are sensitive because they have such big emotions and don't know how to regulate them. So I just think I was that kind of girl, and so it makes more sense now because I've regressed back and I've looked at some of those events and I understand the feelings. The feelings come back and you can experience what that child was feeling and you go, okay, well, I know why you didn't feel you could cope with that,
Yeah.
you know?
I haven't done RTT, but I think this would have come up during it because it came up in a coaching session that I was having. And my coach was just really good at what he does. And I don't even know if he's certified in it, but he, certainly was practicing it and on me, I think. But I, and this goes back to how our subconscious starts from zero, actually before
Mhm.
zero, because and this was verbalized to me later in life, but much later in life. But my father, my parents had no money when I was born, and I was the second, and I was the second in like 13 months. And my dad was going to school, my mom didn't have a job, and it was not, and he was working at a gas station part time. And when she told him that she was pregnant, oh, and the rubber broke, the condom broke. So they were like literally trying to avoid me
Oh,
and
yeah.
had an accident. And
Mhm.
that he went screaming out of the apartment they lived in, running down the street. And that hit me so hard when, and I thought, oh my gosh, because the question that was posed to me was, what is the earliest memory you have of not feeling valued? Because I had this, I uncovered that there was this thing that I was always seeking, value or what's the word? I was always seeking validation. And
Mhm.
so, yeah. And so this came up and I was like, oh my gosh, when we're in a womb, we are,
Yeah.
our brain is working. Our young little brain that is just forming, or our soul is receiving that. Maybe our brain isn't even formed, but our
No,
soul is receiving it because we are a soul at that point, right?
absolutely. And we can hear everything. So, you know, I like yourself, I have had experiences where I'm aware of the situation before I was born. So there is definitely something in that. But you said then they avoided me. They avoided having me, and that's very strong words. You have to be very careful with what you say to yourself and continue to say, because, I think if you have you had the conversation with your parents? Were you
Well,
able
they're
to?
both no longer here.
Mhm.
So no, I remember when I found out that I was an accident, it was during Thanksgiving, and family was together, and I was trying to get them to admit my sister was an accident because she was before me, and they had just gotten married, and I was having
Yeah.
fun with it, and I didn't
Mm,
realize it would backfire on me. And it was a
yeah.
jolt. I mean, and it made me think, oh gosh, this is how my sister would have felt. This is,
Yeah.
that was kind of mean of me
There were lots
to
of
try to do
emotions.
that. Yeah, yeah. Um, but what I came to believe is that, gosh darn it, I was meant to be here. You know, that old
Absolutely.
rubber wasn't going to stop me.
Yeah. Well, this is one way you must approach your life and reframe things to work for you. So you could look at this that you were always avoided and never wanted, or you can look at this as I was meant to be here by hook or by crook. I had a purpose and a mission on this planet, and that is going to empower you. So that's what you listen to. But we are actually hardwired to look for the negative. That's because negative things could endanger our lives. So primal times we had these instincts wired into us, and to look for the negative keeps us safe, but it doesn't help help us evolve and become better human beings. So we have to, just knowing that you are going to naturally look for the negative, we have to work a little bit harder to look for the positive, which, once you've addressed these things and you're aware of these things, you can then go, well, actually, no, that's not how it is. That's what the young me thought. But now I know better, and I'm going to do better, and I'm going to tell myself better things. So you can then empower yourself. So you have to not say that phrase ever again, because you were supposed to be here. And another point to mention is, we come through our parents. We are not our parents. And so for all those people out there who have had a challenging upbringing, it doesn't mean you need to associate yourself with that or connect yourself with that. That was not your stuff. We do come through challenges to learn and grow. And, I'm sure you would agree with me that we have our biggest evolution through challenge, through hard times. So, it's hard to recognize when you're in it and you're struggling that this is a blessing, but maybe later on in your life you can look back and go, without that difficult time I wouldn't be where I am now. So I just want to put that message across to all the people that feel they were dealt a troubling hand with their parents. They are here for a reason. The universe wanted them to be here, and they've got something brilliant to offer.
Yeah, I love that. I also believe that we pick our parents before we come here.
Well, I
And
do too.
the reason that you pick them is to get the lessons you need. And
Yes.
one of the things that I love that I learned is, and this really stuck with me, is that souls can't have a human experience, only humans. So they can't touch, they can't see, see and just the world, that the 3D world that we live in, souls can't do that. And so but your soul is very smart, and it knows what it needs in terms to expand, and it can't expand. We want to, as humans, sit in our own little beliefs, but souls
Mm.
want to, like, want everything. They want to be, it's like we're all one, and so we all belong together, even though we seem to be very different. And so I think that if you look at it from that lens of, yeah, it was difficult and my parents were very difficult, but why did I pick them? And what is that supposed to teach me? How is that expanding me in ways that I can help the world better?
Mm-hmm.
How can I be a better human going forward, in this world, by those lessons? And it doesn't mean you have to, like, make this big, huge impact in the world. It just means that you're going to have more grace. You're going to have more understanding. You're going to have more experience. People sometimes don't think their lived experience is any experience at all. And so I like that. I learned that, from reading and being so fascinated in this topic.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm on the same page. I am very fascinated with this topic too, and I do believe that. I just know that not everybody is in the same learning space that we're in,
Yes.
and I just wanted to get that message across.
So it might be,
But
she's crazy.
well, a lot of people think I am crazy when I say things like that, and
Yeah.
you understand too. But it's, you know, I think the other thing to mention is patterns, um, ancestral patterns,
Oh, yeah.
because if you believe all these things that we chose our parents, you also probably believe that um, we take on ancestral patterns from our parents, and it's almost like you need to be the strong one in the line of many to say, I'm going to break this pattern for the future generations. And I very much felt that I had work to do that wasn't necessarily my work
Mhm.
during my lifetime. So it's a really interesting topic.
Yes, yes, that is so interesting. Maybe you should come back and we'll talk more about that. One thing I want to say before we end this is, we talk about people who have had difficult parents. What can you say to people who have had great parents? Like I was very loved, and
Mm.
I think a lot of people come into this, and I've heard this myself with the people I've worked with, is, but my parents were great. So they don't want to go there because they're afraid that, it will be, it's they're not going to be loyal. They're not going to be, it's going to uncover something that might be bad about their parents. And they'll feel guilty and they don't want to go there. Because it might have
Mm.
been only one incident or something, and it's like, oh, my parents were great. I had a great life. What do you
Mm.
say to those people who actually need to go there? And it's not,
Um,
you don't feel guilty about it.
yeah, well, the first thing I would say is our parents don't go out of the way to damage us. They are always doing their best. And, if you imagine what your best was at 20 years old versus your best at 30 years old, they'd be very different things. And we're all just managing from day to day, trying to do our best. And, as a parent, it's hard. It's really hard sometimes. We have good days and we have bad days, and we all make mistakes. So that's number one. And, I think going down this road is learning about yourself. And when you get greater understanding of yourself, you can then unlock this understanding and continue to dialogue more with your body. I really believe that once you go down this.
Oops, you froze. What happened?
Are you there?
Yeah, you froze. It was perfect. You were
Oh, I'm
saying,
sorry.
once you go there, and then it froze when you go, once you go
Oh,
there.
okay.
Can you recreate that?
Okay. Yeah. Once you go there to the deep understanding of who you are and understanding why you did something a certain way, it's almost like you unlock this door to a dialogue within yourself. And that's what I think is so beautiful about this is you can have one or two therapy sessions and your body hears you, you get it, and it's like the dialogue starts. And so you'll start, if you can be aware, you'll start to notice other things will come up, and you'll go, oh, and you'll get these aha moments about why you did a certain thing a certain way, or why you were attracted to a certain person or a certain thing. And that's what's so beautiful about this. But just to recap over, you were asking me, can you ask me the question again,
Well,
Laurie,
it was just
about,
like, what do you say to people who think, who don't want to pursue uncovering things because they're afraid it's a betrayal of their parents?
yeah, well, I think the thing is, it's not, I know that I would want my children to go there, even if it was gonna show up a bad day, like for
Yes,
one
good point.
day. You know, I would rather they went there and they dealt with it than didn't go there for the fear of upsetting somebody else. And that's where you have to think, what's more important? My internal world is so important. And if you're in turmoil of any sort, go there. Just don't waste your life trying to keep other people happy because, we know how that ends.
Yeah, and I feel too that just what you were saying, if there's patterns there that are being carried down, you got to be strong and break them. You got to be the one,
You have
because if you don't do it, then it's going to carry on. It
in
already has carried on to
children.
your kids and your
Yeah.
grandkids if you have grandchildren. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
I do believe you can unlock things for your parents. You know, it's funny some of the things that happen when you have an energetic shift and you sort of cut off that tie to a past situation, it can help your parents as well. That's
Mm,
going a little bit woo-woo, and
yeah.
a lot of people, it might be too much, but it does. You have the strangest things happening, and people saying, you know, that somebody came and apologized for something following the work, you know, and
Hmm.
saying, you know, I realized I wasn't always my best, but knowing that I tried my best is enough, I think.
Yeah. 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 And just about your parents, I mean, you say they did their best. I think I was a 23-year-old new mom, and I'm a much
Exactly.
better grandmother than I am. Of course, I don't spend 24/7 with them, but much more patient and such. But yeah, I think everybody is doing their best, and some, even if what they do might seem mean to you, like they're the difficult parents, they're it's their way of coping, that because they have no, they're in their own oblivious world
Mm,
with a lot of
yeah.
subconscious shit going on that they haven't uncovered. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think people, the souls who come here to learn and expand, and some people just get stuck and they don't know how to do that, and they haven't figured it out. And that's the sad part.
And, you know, ancestrally, like you say, you know, as you go back, our parents were generally younger and younger and didn't have a lot of these tools that we have available to us today. So, you know, they were finding their way with very little
Yeah.
guide. So, you
Yep.
know, there were a lot of children raising children and still are to this day, but you know, it's
Yep.
tough
So true.
circumstance.
So true. Well, thank you so much. I would love to have you back to talk about ancestral
Thank
uh
you. I will come back.
stuff. Yeah, because I mean, I had somebody on a while ago, and we talked about other things too. I don't think we really honed in on that, but it's been a while, so it would be good to have that discussion again. I'm sure that you have some good stories to tell about that. So yeah, so thank you so much for being here. I can tell
Thank you.
you're really great at what you do. Oh, and we should just mention that Polly, her website is,
Rapidshift.therapy.com, and I'm on Instagram at Rapid Shift Therapy.
and it looks like you can schedule coffee with you.
Yes, yeah, coffee call to understand, learn a little bit more about my therapy. Alternatively, I have got a course coming up and a live event at the end of this month. So if you're interested in any of those things, if you go to my Instagram page, all the information's on there, and just DM me and I will send you the details.
Yeah, and there's a couple of Polly Angels that are not you on
Oh,
Instagram. Yeah. So your
uh,
Instagram handle is
is at Rapid Shift Therapy.
okay.
Not my
Yes.
name at
Don't
all.
search Polly Angel because they are not
No.
her.
Just
Um,
Rapid Shift Therapy. Thank you very much.
yes, yes, that's great. And what is your are you going to do a workshop and that leads
So
into the program?
yeah, I have a live event which has got lots of nuggets of real gems of advice to help you on your way right now. And I'm also launching a course beginning of September where my plan is to get a cohort of like-minded women, because a great supportive community is what we need to really progress and change, you know, and
Yeah.
to do it one way is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what I really want to create. And yeah, so if anybody's interested, I'll be talking all about it on my live event, which is the 20th and the 21st of August. So
Okay. Well, that is
if
great.
you're interested,
I've enjoyed every minute. I think
thank
you're
you.
fantastic, and I'm so glad you reached out, and we'll keep in
Thank you very
touch.
Thanks for having me on. Great
Okay.
conversation.
All right. I'm glad we
Take
got the internet worked out.
Yes, thank goodness.
All right.
Take
Bye.
care. Thank you.